Welcome to LFC Transfer Hub. 11 players could miss Liverpool showdown against Man City as injury update imminent. Second news is Liverpool nagging transfer suspicion remains as Richard Hughes move telling. Now details. Liverpool are back in action on Sunday afternoon with the visit of Manchester City. And the Reds are still waiting to discover exactly who they can call upon for the game against the team, currently second in the Premier League. The biggest question mark is over the fitness of Joe Gomez. The defender has missed the last 2 games having injured his hip when accidentally colliding with Reds goalkeeper Alisson Becker during the 3-2 defeat at Bournemouth, with Arne Slot hopeful Gomez could return and provide an alternative at right-back. That is because both Jeremy Frimpong and Connor Bradley remain sidelined. Bradley is out for the season after knee surgery, while Frimpong is expected to be missing for a couple of weeks with a groin issue that saw him not play against Newcastle United at the weekend. Alexander Isak remains out for several months as he recovers from surgery on an ankle injury that included a fractured fibula after being caught by Tottenham Hotspur defender Mickey van de Ven when scoring Liverpool's opener in the 2-1 away win before Christmas. Teenage centre-back Giovanni Leoni is ruled out for the season after ACL surgery in September, while youngsters Jadon Dans, Stefan Bajtic and Welity Lucky are all absent. City, meanwhile, have significant injury concerns of their own. Injuries to centre-backs Josko Gvardiol shin and John Stones thigh prompted the recent move in the transfer market for Mark Gehi, although Ruben Dias returned to training this week. Forwards Rayan Cherki and Jeremy Doku are doubts, while Mateo Kovacic and Savio are expected to be absent. City entertain Newcastle United in their League Cup semi-final second leg on Wednesday. Second news is Liverpool nagging transfer suspicion remains as Richard Hughes move telling. It's all over. The January transfer window, as is customary, was slammed shut on Monday evening, with Liverpool having essentially made no changes to the first-team squad available to Arne Slot. Some younger players were recalled from loans, others were moved on elsewhere. But despite interest in both Andy Robertson and Curtis Jones, the Reds resisted any temptation to cash in on players. There was a failed attempt to bring in Luchel Geertruida from Sunderland on loan, while a £60 million deal was agreed with Rennes to sign Jeremy Jacquet in the summer. There was a little insight into the mind of some football supporters when, on announcement, Liverpool had brokered an agreement for Jeremy Jacquet. Among the first questions being asked was whether there would be any more arrivals. Too much is not enough, but there was genuine concern behind the inquiry given the lack of options, particularly at right-back in the Reds squad at present. Indeed, Liverpool showed their hand a bit with the attempt to sign Luchel Geertruida, although that was always a bit of a long shot. But with no new signings incoming, the Reds will have to go with what they have got. The deal for Jacquet shows Richard Hughes and the recruitment team have very much remained on the lookout during the January window, although it isn't in the style of Fenway Sports Group to pursue short-term options. The fortunes of Ben Davies, Ozan Kabak and Arthur Melo are proof of that. Nevertheless, there is a nagging doubt that just one more defensive option, either at right-back or centre-back, could make a massive difference. To be fair, only Manchester City made any significant moves in the window, but they have the financial clout to fix problems that Liverpool, and indeed most clubs, simply cannot. Arne Slot will now back himself, his players, the fitness staff and, of course, Lady Luck to deliver over the next 4 months. They're going to have to. Richard Garnett. Liverpool have been in urgent need of defensive reinforcements, and they appear to have finally landed their man with the £60 capture of French centre-back Jeremy Jacquet. The only problem is, he can't kick a ball for the club until next season. It certainly strikes as a long-term strategic investment, and hopefully, the 20-year-old can be the eventual successor to Virgil van Dijk. For the club to be prepared to spend such significant money on a player, so young suggests he should be the real deal. In the meantime, the Reds have failed to land any defensive reinforcements to help get them through the second half of this season. Only time will tell whether that was a risk worth taking, with Champions League qualification in the balance and of paramount importance. Allowing summer target Mark Gehi to join rivals Manchester City has frustrated supporters, but the huge outlay for Jacquet suggests that Richard Hughes and the recruitment team saw better value in making a signing for the future rather than one for right now. Meanwhile, the noise around possible exits for both Andy Robertson and Curtis Jones eventually went away, and thank goodness for that. Losing either player at this point in the campaign would only have resulted in weakening Arne Slot's hand at a time when it needs to be strengthened. Another player who has stayed put is Mohamed Salah. The bust-up he had with Slot before AFCON appears to now be water under the bridge, at least on the surface, and he will have a hugely important role to play in the second half of the season. He will be desperate to make a success out of what has been a rollercoaster campaign so far, because this could be the last 4 months of his illustrious Liverpool career. Third news is Richard Hughes opens up on Arne Slot position and makes Liverpool transfers vow. Liverpool sporting director Richard Hughes has opened up on his relationship with Arne Slot and remains convinced the record-breaking transfer spent last summer will prove a success at Anfield. Hughes, who was announced in his position in March 2024, was integral in the appointment of Slot as Reds head coach a few months later in succession to long-term manager Jurgen Klopp. Despite minimal activity during the first summer transfer window of Slot's tenure, the Dutchman went on to lead Liverpool to a record-equaling 20th championship. Fortunes, though, have taken a downturn this season after a squad overhaul that saw £450 million spent on new players and half that amount recouped with the departure of a number of key regulars. While Slot has been heavily scrutinised given the Reds currently standing outside the Champions League qualification berths in 6th place, Hughes has dismissed any suggestion of pressure being applied from the club's hierarchy over team selection and that the head coach's position is under any immediate threat. And with Liverpool having failed to bolster their injury-hit defensive ranks for the remainder of the season, although a £60 deal has been agreed for Rennes centre-back Jeremy Jacquet to join in the summer, the sporting director admits the club aren't always able to give Slot the players he requires. Fundamentally, there's the understanding for both parties and everyone at Wide that everything involving matchday, team selection, tactics, that's always the manager or head coach, said Hughes. That's their domain. It's very important not to step into that. Of course we talk about football and performances, but I always let Arne lead that. Naturally, in a conversation, I will come up with an opinion and not just react to Arne's, but always waiting for the right time to share these things is critical. You have to have an opinion. It was an opinion that got Arne into the position he is in, so you can't shy away from that. But once you have the right person and believe in that person, the judgment isn't something that is happening on a daily basis. You are working together to achieve something together. It helped that we came in together at the same point, possibly, but it's more important that we had synergy right from the first moment. Understanding who he is as a football manager, how he wants to work, trying your best, and it's not always possible to put them in the best possible position to have all the tools they require, and that's what I feel my job is then. Hughes was speaking alongside Slot and Liverpool Chief Executive Officer Billy Hogan as part of the latest episode of the Reds Roundtable. And of working with the sporting director, Slot said, "We have spoken almost on a daily basis since we started. You get to know each other even better. What I really like about working for a sporting director is that whenever I need him, he is there for me. But you don't constantly feel that all the decisions you are making, he is judging them. Maybe he does, but then he finds a really good way of hiding it. You want to have the backup when needed and advice, but you don't want 2 eyes on top of you constantly on every decision you make. I think Richard finds that balance really well for me to work in ideal circumstances. I've worked with sporting directors who are very keen on the ones they have signed, and what makes Richard special is that he's not only focused on the ones he signed, he is there for Liverpool to win and not just for his signings to do well. That's something you don't always see with sporting directors. It's safe to say he has a low ego." Hughes also explained why there was an expectation within the club that the raft of summer signings, particularly those from abroad, would take time to adapt, as has been seen with the recent improvement in form of £116 Florian Wirtz and £79 Hugo Ekitike. You have to constantly try to help people off the pitch in their adaptation, he said. It's normal to expect that young people coming from another country would take time to adjust to their surroundings, a different type of football than they may have been used to. So much that isn't necessarily alien but different. You want to be there to support them and not suffocate them with it. Let them find their own feet. All these players are here for a very good reason. They are top players. Everybody has played their part in getting them to the club, and we were all very happy with what we did in the summer, not just me. Whether they are good, bad, or indifferent in terms of signings, there's no proprietary felt in my position. It's a collective effort that helps these boys translate their form for which they have been brought to the club and be the best version of themselves. As long as the players are the right ones in the first place, and we are absolutely convinced every time we bring someone in that they are, then the performances on the pitch will quickly follow.